Alright folks, brace yourselves, because we're diving deep into the weird side of history. This isn't your boring textbook stuff. These are the true stories that historians still scratch their heads over. Stuff so bizarre, you'd swear they were ripped from a comedy sketch, but they're all 100% real. Let's unravel the top 10 bizarre historical facts that make absolutely no sense, starting with one that sounds like it came from a movie script. At number 10, a president who predicted his death in eerie detail. Abraham Lincoln, just days before his assassination in 1865, told his wife and close friends about a dream he had. In it, he wandered through the White House and came upon a coffin surrounded by mourners. He asked a guard who had died, and the guard replied the president. He was killed by an assassin. 3 days later, Lincoln was shot in Ford's Theater. But that's not even the strangest part. Both Lincoln and his assassin, John Wilkes Booth, had bizarre parallels. Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy. Booth was born in 1839, Lincoln in 1809. And get this, Lincoln was elected to Congress in 1846, Booth in 1846. Lincoln was elected president in 1860, Booth assassinated him in 1865. Even creepier, Lincoln was shot in a theater named Ford, Booth was caught in a warehouse owned by Ford. Coincidence? Simulation glitch? You decide. At number 9, the dancing plague of 1518. Imagine this: you're walking through Strasbourg, France in the middle of summer, and suddenly, a woman begins dancing. She dances non-stop. No music. No crowd. No reason. People gather, confused. But instead of stopping, more people join in. Within a week, over 100 people are dancing uncontrollably in the streets. Some danced for days. Some danced until they collapsed. Some, literally danced to death. This really happened. Physicians at the time thought it was hot blood, yes, actual overheated blood. They tried to cure it by encouraging more dancing. They even built a stage and hired musicians. Modern historians think it could have been mass psychogenic illness, religious hysteria, or ergot poisoning from moldy bread, the same fungus behind LSD. But still, no one knows for sure. It's one of the strangest medical mysteries of all time. Coming in at number 8, the Great Emu War of Australia. In 1932, Australia went to war against birds. Emus, to be exact. These giant, flightless birds were ravaging farmland in Western Australia. So naturally, the government sent soldiers with machine guns to handle the problem. Yes, trained soldiers with automatic weapons versus birds. But the emus were fast. Smart. They split into smaller flocks and ran evasive maneuvers. When the dust settled, over 10,000 rounds of ammo were fired. Only a few hundred birds were actually killed. The emus? They won. The government gave up. The soldiers retreated. And the Emu War officially ended in defeat. One politician described the birds as having invincible strategy. This actually happened. History books had to acknowledge it. Now at number 7, Napoleon was once attacked by a horde of bunnies. You know Napoleon, war genius, emperor, conqueror of Europe. But there's one battle he never won, against a swarm of fluffy rabbits. In 1807, after signing a peace treaty, Napoleon's men organized a celebratory rabbit hunt. They released hundreds, maybe thousands, of rabbits into a field for him and his men to shoot. But there was a problem. The organizers didn't use wild rabbits, they used tame ones. Rabbits raised by humans. So instead of running away, the rabbits ran toward Napoleon. At first, it was funny. Then they swarmed him. The emperor was forced to retreat from bunnies. It was so chaotic that his carriage got surrounded, and his soldiers were whacking rabbits with sticks. That day, Napoleon didn't conquer a thing, except his pride. Sneaking in at number 6, medieval animals were put on trial. Yes, you heard that right. In the Middle Ages, Europe had court trials for animals. If a pig bit a child, it could be tried for murder. If rats invaded a town's grain, lawyers would be hired to defend the rats. These trials were real, complete with judges, clerks, and sometimes even executioners. One pig was hanged in 1386 after being found guilty of murder. In another case, a rooster was convicted for laying an egg, a crime because it was considered unnatural and linked to the devil. They actually brought the egg to court as evidence. Some think it was a way for society to understand justice. Others think it's just insane. Either way, it happened. Holding strong at number 5, a man survived both atomic bombs. Tsutomu Yamaguchi was in Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, when the first atomic bomb was dropped. He suffered burns, partial deafness, and severe injuries. Somehow, he survived. He returned home, to Nagasaki. 3 days later, the second bomb was dropped, and Yamaguchi was caught in that one too. Against all odds, he survived again. Doctors said it was a miracle. He lived until 2010 and became an advocate for peace, often speaking about the horrors he witnessed, twice. He's the only officially recognized survivor of both bombings. You can't make this stuff up. Climbing to number 4, a pope who exhumed his enemy's corpse for a courtroom showdown. In 897 AD, Pope Stephen VI really hated his predecessor, Pope Formosus. So what did he do? He dug up Formosus's corpse, already 7 months dead, dressed it in papal robes, propped it on a throne, and put it on trial. This event is known as the Cadaver Synod. The dead pope was accused of corruption and disobedience. Of course, the body didn't respond. So a deacon was appointed to speak on his behalf. Unsurprisingly, the corpse was found guilty. They cut off 3 of its fingers, stripped it of its robes, and threw it in the Tiber River. Even in death, Formosus couldn't escape politics. Taking the number 3 spot, the CIA tried to spy on Soviets using cats. Operation Acoustic Kitty. Sounds like a cartoon, right? But it was very real. In the 1960s, the CIA wanted to use cats to spy on Soviet agents. So they implanted microphones and transmitters into actual cats and trained them to follow voices. The idea was to send a cat near enemy meetings and eavesdrop. Problem was, they forgot cats don't follow orders. The first test cat was released in Washington, D.C. near a Soviet compound, and was immediately run over by a taxi. Millions of dollars were spent on this feline fiasco before the project was quietly cancelled. That's your tax money hard at work. Now at number 2, a man survived a metal rod exploding through his skull, and lived to tell the tale. Meet Phineas Gage. In 1848, he was working on a railroad in Vermont when an explosion sent a 3-foot-long iron rod straight through his face, entering below his cheekbone and exiting the top of his skull. Most people would have died instantly. Not Phineas. He stood up, walked to the cart, and rode to the doctor. He survived. But here's where it gets weird. His personality changed. He became impulsive, aggressive, and erratic, a completely different man. His case became the foundation for modern neuroscience. Phineas lived for 12 more years, carrying the rod as a bizarre trophy of his survival. And finally, at number 1, a man who forgot to die. In 1707, a French man named Joseph Pujol had a strange talent. He could inhale air through his backside and expel it at will. Yes, he was basically a human whoopee cushion. He became a massive hit in the 1800s under the name Le Pétomane and performed at the Moulin Rouge in Paris. His act included musical farts, impressions of cannon fire, and even blowing out candles from several feet away. But here's where it gets unreal. Pujol became so famous that people started believing he was immortal, because nobody ever saw him age. He became a living legend, and when he eventually died, fans insisted he had faked it just to escape fame. To this day, some French folklore treats him like a trickster spirit, or the farting ghost of Paris. And there you have it, 10 of the most mind-blowing, bizarre, logic-defying true stories from history. From presidents predicting their own deaths to cats on CIA missions and dancing plagues with no cause, history proves one thing: truth really is stranger than fiction. If your brain's spinning right now, you're not alone. Let us know which one blew your mind the most, and if you've heard of something even crazier, drop it in the comments. Who knows? You might just end up in our next video. Smash that like button if you enjoyed the ride, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that make you say, "Wait, that really happened?" Until next time, keep questioning everything, because sometimes, the weirdest things are the truest ones.